Welcome to the Best Hour of Their Day podcast with your host, Jason Fernandez.
And me, Jason Ackerman. With more than 20 years in the business,
As both coaches and affiliate owners,
our passion is to help create world-class affiliates
and coaches by building
better boxes. Welcome to
the best hour of your day.
When you do what you love, like CrossFit, coaching, or running a business, you want to do it for life. InsideTracker can help. InsideTracker was founded in 2009 by leading scientists in aging, genetics, and biometrics. Using their patented algorithm, InsideTracker analyzes your body's data to provide you with a clear picture of what's going on inside you and to offer you science-backed recommendations for positive diet and lifestyle changes. Then InsideTracker tracks your progress every day, every step of the way toward reaching your performance goals and living a longer, healthier life. If you're a coach, an affiliate owner, a trainer, a registered dietitian, or any other health and wellness practitioner, InsideTracker has launched a new program for you to offer to your clients called InsideTracker Pro. In addition to helping your clients optimize their health and perform better than ever, you'll also get discounts and earn revenue. Plus, you'll get free access to the InsideTracker Pro Educational Resource Center and a free personal coach dashboard for secure access to your clients' InsideTracker results and recommendations. InsideTracker Pros receive a 50% discount to experience InsideTracker themselves, earn revenue, enjoy discounts, and help your clients perform better than ever with InsideTracker Pro. Visit insidetracker.com/Coach Jason Ackerman to get started. Welcome back. Best hour of their day. Fern and Ackerman here. We just took off our tinfoil hats, so no conspiracy talk on today's episode.
I don't take mine off. That's on.
Yours is like more like a yarmulke. It's just permanently on.
That's literally what I was going to say. I was like, if I could make a tinfoil hat yarmulke, I feel like you might wear one.
Would you convert to Judaism if you got to wear tinfoil yarmulke all the time?
If they would take me.
We wouldn't take you. That's the good point, Fern.
Do I have to start storing money in my shoes?
That is the old Groucho Marx line of I would never join a company that would accept me as a member. So yes, the Jews will not have you, Fern. Stick to the Cubans.
Perfect.
But anyway, anyway, we got a big week coming up. Heading out to the Colorado.
Are there Cuban Jews?
I've never met one. I'm sure there are, though. I mean, I'm sure
but I guess you would have to have been you'd have to have converted to Judaism, right?
Probably. Or married in type of thing.
I've always thought that the fact that a religion like Judaism is considered ethnicity.
Well, it is weird, right? That is one of the few religions
I think it's the only one, right?
Yeah, and I don't know if
that's if you were Jewish, that would be considered an ethnic group, right?
But I don't think that's actually true. I think Jews just identify as an ethnicity in addition to a religion. Because I don't think it's actually true. Like, my ethnicity is not Jewish.
Right.
Like, that's your religion.
Right. So if I was applying for a college, I couldn't be like, what ethnicity are you? Couldn't put Jewish.
I mean, maybe you can write it in. I don't know that they might be like, this guy doesn't even know what ethnicity means. We probably shouldn't let him in here. Maybe at the Naval Academy that flies, but not at state schools like I went to.
Well, there's a lot that flies at the Naval Academy that probably shouldn't. But anyway, yeah.
So, we got a big week coming up. We got some big interviews.
I just wore a yarmulke?
Oh, we're back on the Jew talk. If you just wear a yarmulke,
is that frowned upon?
I think people would be like, "Why is that Cuban dude wearing a yarmulke?" But other than that, I don't know that.
At first, I'm offended that you think people just assume that I'm Cuban. But the
you have a Cuban look to you.
Like if I was wearing one, should I be prepared for somebody to just walk up to me and be like, "Shalom"?
Oh no,
Okay.
I do to give a little nod to Jews. You know how like if you have a Jeep, it's very much like
a Jew
that.
Nod?
There's you look at the nose a little bit. You're like, okay, nose. And then Certainly if they're wearing a yarmulke. However, here's the catch. Yeah, I'm going to throw a big wrench into the system. The Jews that wear yarmulkes think they're better than the Jews that don't. So
I do know
meanwhile,
that there's a weird what's the word? It's like segregation in the Jewish community.
yeah, they
So you
think
have
they're
like
hot
secular,
shit.
you have secular Jews, and then like so or
It's
Hasidic
weird.
Jews.
Like, yeah, you like the Hasidic Jews, the more Orthodox Jews, I think,
Right.
look down upon the Jews like me that don't really do anything. I mean, at this point in my life, I would say I was raised Jewish. I wouldn't say
Right.
like my religion is Jewish, but I think when you meet another Jew, like for example, I go to jujitsu and I met one of the first days I met this girl who's clearly Jewish, and we've kind of bonded a little bit. Like we joke more than anything. You just have like a common background, like no different than I'm sure
Right.
when you meet
CrossFit.
someone that went to the Naval Academy, CrossFit, right? But more specific, like CrossFit's so general these days. You meet someone that went to the Naval Academy, you have a very good idea of what like 4 years of their life were like.
I just met somebody yesterday who is a member here who's been here for a little bit, who had no idea went to the Naval Academy. So
Well, that's about
it's
getting
always
to know your
weird.
members a little
It's
better.
always
You
weird.
should-
Well, just asking them, like, and then I have to. That's a weird question. I'm like, when did you graduate? And they're like, 2016. I'm like, God damn.
Oh yeah, seeing some
Yep.
somebody. I saw a post or like a meme the other day that it was like 2022 to 2000 is like 2000 to 1978, right? So
Right.
it's like how old? Like it seems like
Suppressing.
forever ago was 2000. Do you remember what you did on New Year's Eve 2000?
New Year's Eve of 2000, I would have been. Was in DC,
Doing what?
raging.
But for why were you in DC? Why did you know that?
So because I was in college, so that's quite. That is the almost dead center of college basketball season.
Were you playing a game in DC?
No, but we typically would be still on campus because we were mid-season, so we would be playing games during that time frame. Actually, no, we would have been back by then. My freshman year, we played in a tournament out in Hawaii, but yeah, typically we would go to DC for New Year's Eve.
You played in a tournament in Hawaii as a college kid?
Yeah, I mean, people do that all the time. It was not the Hawaiian Classic.
Not most people. Like most
people who
don't
play
go to
Division
Hawaii.
Most people who play Division 1 basketball will do something like that. It's not weird.
Sure, but most people don't play Division 1 basketball.
I
What's the
didn't say
team
most
out
people would play. I said most people that live in that world, like that, is pretty standard.
What's the team in Hawaii? The Rainbows?
No, the University of Hawaii is the. I can see their H emblem, but I can't remember what their mask.
I thought it was the Rainbows. I thought it was like a really like.
It might be the Rainbows, but I don't think it is.
Something
God, where's Katie when we need her? Jesus. Anyway,
Google, yeah.
no,
Google
but
that.
kind of going back to the Jew thing. That's kind of the. It's not, but it's not about. So we're not talking about Jewish people anymore. But
I look so Jewish when I look at how Jewish I look today.
You do look pretty Jewish.
Oh man, when I cut my hair, the guy was like, "Good," and I was like, "This is as good as it gets." So yes, thank you for this haircut.
Yeah,
but
you're not making me
can't-
any better looking, sir,
Yeah.
but I appreciate your attempt.
I love my barbers, by the way. They got face tattoos. They're legit. They're legit.
I actually
barbers.
I went to get a haircut today, and I actually bought a T-shirt from the barbershop. If you're in Virginia Beach, go to Lion's Head Barbershop. Anyway,
You went today to get a haircut?
Yep.
They ripped you off, dude. It doesn't look like you had anything done.
Well, I'm wearing a headset and sunglasses, so it's hard for you to tell. No, but Aaron, who is a member here for a long time, I've known for a long. His name is Aaron the Barber. That's how he is known.
That's your barber.
That's my barber, Aaron the Barber. But anyway, no, just kind of that kind of like a little bit of confusion and maybe lack of clarity and the fog of that is very similar to the idea of intensity, which I was having as is the case when talking to Joe Alexander the other day. We kind of went down a rabbit hole and talking about CrossFit and intensity and the idea that while you and I and many people in the CrossFit community agree that CrossFit is the mechanism. Like if you were just like, what's the holy grail of creating a better human, greater fitness, all of those things, that CrossFit is kind of that holy grail. Just switch religions on you.
But also let's before we get any further, Joe Alexander, longtime seminar staff member,
One of my mentors for a long time is where
flow
I started.
master.
Yeah, I started it. He
After,
was at CrossFit Virginia Beach when I was there with Pat Sherwood for a long time. And
military background. Joe Alexander is who, when I was on staff, I would listen to the most intently during lectures and try to mimic his public speaking style.
he is what I would describe as somebody who has he is the perfect blend of insanely deep knowledge and understanding of a concept combined with the how would we say, the verbal skills to make it completely captivating
and simplified, right? Like he can take a really complex.
He is a truly gifted orator, however you say that, but
orator.
He is, yeah, he is he is a truly gifted speaker. And I would agree. He was one of the people, like when he would talk, I would be so glued into what he was saying because it was just so beautifully communicated that you could not listen, in my opinion. Like it was just so well done.
And he's very funny when he wants.
And he's funny, right? Like again, it was like I said, it's a perfect blend of the educate, inspire, entertain combo that we're looking for with a really, masterful educator. We started going down this rabbit hole of, utilize. So we were talking about the podcast with John Wolf and how I think people should have a better understanding of other modalities in order to blend them with CrossFit, because while you and I, when I say we, I'm thinking CrossFit community, believe that CrossFit is like the most effective means to get results in high intensity. That doesn't necessarily mean it's the best route for everybody to go into CrossFit immediately. There might be other things that need to be done, more stability work, or what we described with John Wolf with regard to durability work. Maybe they just might need to spend whatever insert amount of time doing a lot of cardiorespiratory endurance work, aerobic capacity work, just to build a metabolic base that would allow them to train, so that they could train and stay safe over time. And I think, it's probably fair to say that I think one of the things that was lost, and I don't think it was done intentionally, actually I know it wasn't done intentionally, is the idea of intensity, and really getting people to unpack that and understand that what made CrossFit so special was the fact that Coach gamified it. So it's just like, hey, how would you find the peak of human potential? Well, you would make it a competition. Very simply stated, right? Like that's how you would get people to figure out how far could I possibly go in this endeavor? Well, you'd have to make it a competition, which is the genesis of men will die for points, that statement, right? It's true. However, like all sports, it has its downfall. You could, in the pursuit of that, you would do things that would now become detrimental to long-term health, potentially unsafe, all of these things. And that was never the goal. It was simply a thought experiment to be like, if we were going to push the needle all the way to the other side, how would we go about doing that? You would have to introduce some degree of competition. There would have to be something where like people would have a reason to go further. Like that's just the nature of human beings. And while that is great, and it has brought to light things with regard to human capacity that nobody thought were possible, in my personal opinion, it's not that's the thing that a lot of people have clung to. It's just like, I could just walk in there every single day and hammer myself to the ground. And so we're kind of dancing around this idea of intensity. And I think it's worth clarifying, just so that coaches listening to this, affiliate owners can listen to this, and he talking, but there is some truth to say that intensity, when combined with the idea of variance, would naturally modulate, right? So
it has to, right? Because by variance, you're going to bring in things that you can't do as fast as others.
Correct. However, I don't think that it should be lost that even with the idea of having intensity modulated by changing the modality, we should still intentionally turn the knob of intensity. Meaning, there should be days where I don't necessarily take that modality and take it to the edge. Going back to this idea of saying, hey, 70% is high intensity. Today, I want you to move at 70%. And realizing and understanding that training at 70% for a long duration, if I'm doing functional movements, if I'm using a good blend of variance, has tremendous impact, and probably all most people would ever need without ever pushing the dial any further. You would get virtually all of the benefits that you would want, whether it would be better blood lipid profile, you wanted to get stronger, you wanted to get faster, you want to develop more skills. You would continue to do that over time because of the nature of your capacity. Because remember, 70% is not 70% forever. As I continue to get better skills, 70%, it's like the Overton window. 70% will start to shift over, and your 70% is no longer what your 70% was 2 years ago. It's a different 70%. If I looked and I matched those, which therein lies the beauty of tracking and quantification of fitness, is like now I can hypothetically look at that, and not hypothetically, I can actually look at that and say, oh, my 70% now, which still feels and looks like 70% effort, is significantly different than my 70% 10 years ago. And I could say that for myself right now, and I don't consider myself to be very fit.
Well, and all it would take is, pick a, for me, for example, just an easy one would be 15 years ago, an 8-minute Fran was like all out effort. Now I could do an 8-minute Fran with rest and like checking my phone, like listening to a podcast and paying attention. So
I'd never probably go over 130 heart rate.
Yeah. And I think, two other things to consider when talking about this that gets overlooked by coaches. I think this is where you and I battle with a lot of people, and they just cannot wrap their head around this. And we need to make it a little more clear. Everything a lot of these other people are doing might make sense in a vacuum. However, if people aren't doing it, it doesn't work. And my point of that is 70% might be the difference in getting someone into the gym, not intimidated, not scared, not worried about getting hurt, but getting them moving. All of these, people want to, this is the best thing to do, and this is the best thing. Cool. It's boring and no one's doing it. So how good is it really? Where 70% intensity in CrossFit, if, for me, oftentimes the idea of like, if you were like, hey, Jay, it's Fran today, go in the garage and do it, I would be dreading it. Where if you're like, hey, Jay, you have to do 21, 15, 9 thrusters and pull-ups today, and you just have to be under 7 minutes, I'd be like, okay, I can do that anytime. I can do that twice today. You want me to do it, right? So it's a matter of if I actually get motivated and excited to do it, I'm going to get more out of it than not, the idea of like, hey, doing something is better than not doing it at all. So there's that. Not to mention, I think if people modulate that intensity, the likelihood of injury or risk of injury is significantly lower too.
Well, there you go. So that's kind of the whole purpose of this is yes, intensity. And again, I think this is just, and it's just because it's a razor's edge. The idea of intensity is a razor's edge. Because if I just go one step too far to the right, it gets really bad. And if I go one step too far to the left, then it becomes not effective. And this is where you have to deep dive into this idea of intensity. Understanding intensity comes in a lot of different shapes and sizes. And yes, the idea of switching the modalities and adding that variance into the types of movements you're doing, when you're doing them, how often, all the volume, all that kind of stuff will naturally create an ebb and flow of the mathematical equation of intensity. However, going back to just like variance, we should intentionally turn the dial of intensity to say, listen, yes, that is baked into the cake. However, I intentionally make the dial for intensity, whatever you do. I want to make it this today. And I've been playing around with, because I'm trying to get back into training, and I still think that CrossFit is the mechanism, but been doing like not necessarily like kettlebell flows, but stuff that we would consider lower intensity, which is still really hard, right? And what I'm finding is that the which I knew already. It's just, validating it. There's a difference in most people understand the concept of time under tension. If we're talking about like the in the weeds time under tension of the difference between a workout that has power cleans in it, where I'm going to be doing like a set of 5 or 6. So I don't know, 30 seconds, right? Of like actual time under tension for that movement versus doing different kettlebell type movements, whether it's, split presses or whatever. And the actual duration of time under tension is significantly longer. Like that is a piece of intensity and variance that is different that you wouldn't typically find in a CrossFit workout. All of that roundabout way to say is I've been playing around with that because I'm trying not to dial myself up too quickly. We had a heavy deadlift yesterday, pulled 405, no problem, right? I haven't pulled 405 in a long time.
That's good.
It's not great. And it's nothing to be posted on Instagram. It's just a thought experiment, which to say you can get all of these things without being batshit crazy with regard to the idea of intensity. But I also am not just going to throw it out the window and say, well, you never need to go there. And this is where I disagree with James, which is like 1 rep maxes are never valuable. And I'm like, well, never is strong. And I think that you should play around with the idea of that. But the idea of it is 1 rep max and how I'm going to approach 1 rep max, that varies by day. How do I feel? It doesn't, my effort is really what matters. Right. And this is why go ahead.
No, just, first of all, when you say James, for the listeners, you're talking about James Fitzgerald. We had him on the podcast. But I agree with you. It's like the idea of percentage work where I'm like, I don't love percentage work at a box because any given day, that percentage is changing, right? Like you just said 1 rep max, you may accidentally hit a 1 rep max because you're fatigued. And that was your 1 rep max for the day. And that's not a bad thing. Or you're just feeling good. I agree with what you said. And I think that's where our mindset is often so different from some of these other leaders or experts in the area where we're like, try it. I think that's where we're like, we rarely, it's a never or don't do or always do. Like mix it up. And, like you're suggesting, we're not saying throw the intensity out. Go throw down a 234 Fran once in a while. Maybe what would you say if you just had to kind of speculate, guess, like how often should someone in our situation, when I say our situation, I mean most listeners, like, yes, if you want to go to the CrossFit Games, your training needs to look a little different. Even if you're training for a local competition, maybe your ramp up to that looks different. But if we're just talking health, or as some people call it, vitality, how many days a week, if that many days a week, would you say you need to push it, like really step on it? I would say it's probably less than once a week, maybe once every 10 days or so.
Well, and so this goes back to the real efficacy of the idea of high intensity, because if you say step on it, my assumption is we're talking about near maximal effort.
I was referring to that. Yes. I'm talking like,
so to go that far, once, maybe twice a week. However, I think you should spend 3 days at 70 plus and then maybe 2 below 70%.
Yeah. And that might look like you called it a flow. I think that's like almost like cardio, but not like monostructural necessarily. Like, hey, if you want to get on a rower or a bike and go 10,000 meters at a easy pace, I think there's building that foundation is key, but you can also do that with dumbbells, with barbells. You pick up 25-pound dumbbells and I'm going to do multiple rounds of DT, 12-9-6 for 30 minutes, just moving and breathing and modulating your heart rate. Yeah, I think, that's the key. And I want to bring this up. I posted a week or two ago, shitty CrossFit still works and people lost their mind. And I think when we say that, this is kind of what we're saying, like whatever you decide here, it works. Like, so when we say shitty CrossFit, it's like, yeah, everybody jumps to like the lowest common denominator, over-programmed, no coaching, dumb movements. Like, yes, that is shitty. And ultimately, shitty anything could lead to negative, be it injury, be it burnout, whatever. When we say shitty CrossFit, we're talking about I don't really care what the programming is. Like, I don't care as long as it's not stupid. Like, there's a and stupid just looks like too much. That's all it looks like. Like,
Most
if you're
of the time.
under, yeah, but I mean, if you're underdoing it and you do thrusters 5 days in a row, but that's all you did, you're gonna be fine. Like, I grew
You'll
up
be
wrestling
just
5 days
fine.
in a row. You
Right.
grew up
I
playing
grew up
basketball
sprinting
like,
5 days in a row.
yeah,
Like
like
it was fine.
that was the whole Pat Sherwood, back in the day. He'd be like Michael Phelps, the Olympian, the swimmer,
He would
shows up to
swim.
practice. Yeah. And he'd be like, hey, coach, I noticed we swam yesterday and we're swimming again today. What's up with that? It's like, hey, you're going to swim every day, dude.
This
and,
seems redundant. I'm like,
yeah,
right. And obviously this is, and we're making light of the situation, but I agree. And this is why I get a little maybe confused or perplexed. I'm not really sure what the word is, but when people try to reinvent the wheel there, and I think it's because lack of understanding or lack of depth of knowledge with regard to what CrossFit is actually preaching. And yes, we as trainers, me specifically, I'll speak to me, are guilty of taking it too far, as is everybody with regard to that, because of where I was in my life, my understanding of the concepts and the theories, all of that stuff. But the beauty of the simplicity of the program is that is what we are proposing. We are proposing that you don't train at super high intensity all the time, right? What we are saying is that phrase, intensity is the independent variable most commonly associated with maximizing the rate of return on favorable adaptation, is that like that you need that in order to get where you're going.
Yeah. And I think that's just the way of also, people cling to things in CrossFit, and often they cling to the things that they disagree with. And intensity happens to be at the forefront of that. And they forget, from the moment we mention intensity, we mention relative intensity, and people forget about that. And then when they think about it, they only think about it in the terms of like, well, every human being is different. Not every human being on any given day is different than what they were. And, in addition to that, we do need to remind people, like, I used to travel with Coach Ripito, and Coach Ripito used to bash CrossFit, and he still does. However, the one thing he used to say positively about it was Coach Glassman and CrossFit showed the world that it's okay to sweat and work hard. Prior to that, like, not just women, but they're, men too. It's always funny. I love going to a Globo gym and you just watch how uneducated. And when I say uneducated, it's like when Roz and I were away a couple months ago, we were at the hotel and there's a massive gym. It was in Vail. And, but every dude that got off, like the old men all had the same routine: recumbent biker, treadmill. And then on their way out the door, they'd grab like 15-pound dumbbells and do like 20 curls and walk out. And it was like, that's what they know. And it's like we taught the world, hey, sure, do that, but you're better off doing functional movements and you're better off putting a little bit of an oomph behind it. And like you said, Coach Glassman, what he did so well was gamify it. We've had Amundsen on the podcast, Greg Amundsen, and he tells the story of his very first workout. Coach Glassman said to him, all right, Greg, you're going to go against him. And when he said that, it changed his mindset. Yeah, it changed. Like, I'm competing. Like, now I have to try. I mean, people will die for points, as Nicole Carroll said.
Well, it's also becomes a bit of an odd argument with regard to just really objectively thinking about the argument that we're having. Is they're like, you guys are doing way too much of a good thing, right? Which is like, okay, let's zoom out just a little bit and say, yes, this might not be optimal training. But when faced with the alternative of like, this person could be doing nothing and could be riddled with chronic disease and not pursuing any degree of fitness, I'll take the guy going overboard all day long. There is some truth to like anything worth doing is worth overdoing. And then you can learn to modulate that over time.
And I think that's exactly what most CrossFitters did. That's what I like. What 70% is, and you know what an easy day is because you know what a hard day is.
Right. And I really think I want to have more conversations about that, because I think the more we talk about it, the more people will really start to wrap their brain around it. And there is no specific scenario. There's no like, if this, then that. It's just kind of like, you need to take it as it comes and understand the idea of intensity, because any given day for any group of athletes, that pendulum is going to swing. And I
But
need to have the ability to kind of put them relatively on target.
so let's bring it down though, and make this usable. I mean, great in theory, great for
Right.
people that are training solo
Right.
right now to think about. I would even have like, obviously you wear something like a Whoop that gives you a little bit of data. Like today I was in the red. I'm like, okay, maybe I need a rest day. Maybe I need to go easier today, or I'm green, like, or just what your day looks like. If I have a
Right.
really busy day, sometimes going in the garage, like what I've been doing a lot of times is like I set the clock for an hour, 10 of it's a warm up, move for 30, 10 of it's a cool, no music, nothing, like just to clear my head. But what does this look like at the affiliate level?
So I prefer to always keep things simple. So we have a member here who's kind of coined this term, just it's a moving day. I think you should regularly program and communicate that the intent of this workout is to move at no particular pace, at no particular load, whatever you feel like doing today. This is kind of the conversation we had with John Wolf about just taking off all of the labels and the intensity portion of that, and just allowing people to move and just get in touch with their body. Be like, what do I feel like doing today? I feel like moving at this pace. I don't even know what this pace is, but I'm here and I feel like this is appropriate, and just do it that way. So I think that's where you start. You keep it simple and you don't try to box it in or frame it or define it. You just say it's a moving day, and you can make those movements, gross motor patterns. You can make them what I would consider like the grunt work type stuff, carries, sled drags, very basic movement, pressing, kettlebell swings, or you can make them a little bit more, fine motor movement. Like you could have some dumbbell snatching, some barbell snatching. But again, the whole point is moving. Hey, what pace? Whatever pace you want. Well, weight, whatever weight you want. I don't care. How many reps should I do? However many you feel like doing today. Right? There's nothing wrong with that, because again, I've gone back to this. There is no magic in most of the numbers out there. There's just not. Right?
How do you convey that, I guess, is the question, without, from most affiliates from day one, it's like, here's our workout, here's your score, here's how we keep track. Like how all of a sudden do you change that?
This is probably, this is probably how often, or how like
no.
in the
How do you do that without like people being like, what do you mean? Like I got to beat so-and-so, or.
Well, obviously there's some things that would lend itself to this and versus not. So with regard to practical application of this idea, AMRAP would be your most ideal scenario. And then just give a general rep scheme. So again, it doesn't matter, right? So think about, let's just make one up on the fly. Let's go 20-minute AMRAP. Let's do kettlebell front squat, kettlebell deadlift, and a sit up, right? 10, 10, 10, 20 minutes. And what I would tell everybody is, I would say, so I've got some hip mediated movement, from the floor. I've got a little bit of hip hinge action with the kettlebell swing, a little bit more dynamic than the deadlift. And then I've got a little bit of core work in there. Fairly simple / predominantly gross motor movement patterns. And I would say, here's the rep scheme: 10, 10, 10. How many rounds should I get? I don't care. Guys, the point of today is just to move. And when you're done with this, feel better than when you started. That's how I'd communicate that. If you get 5 rounds, that means you'd be moving at roughly a 4-minute pace to get through 30 reps, very casual. And if you're feeling like you should move a little bit faster, move a little bit faster. But the point is, this should be kind of like a talking warm up. You should be able to converse with people the entire time, like move it, whatever, but it's just moving. The point is not to train. The point is to move. And that's what I would do. I think those have a ton of value. And I think you would be shocked at how many people would be relieved to hear that.
And I tell you what, you feel better after. Like it's like oiling your body, you feel like, oh, I feel a little like lubricated. I feel good.
Yeah.
Where, intensity feels good in a different way. Like you feel accomplished, you're happy. Like after, maybe an hour or two later, you're like, oh, I feel good. But when you move and flow, like I think that's a long lost art of like, it's like lubricating your joints.
Right.
You need to, it doesn't have to be only via something like stretching, right? It's doing these movements.
I think you can do both. And I don't think you should do this all the time, because then you throw out intensity and you lose some of the efficacy of the intended training. But this is all, you also have to realize, like, intensity is different for everybody. What's different for Christina, who's my 70-year-old client here, is different than what is for me.
So,
and that's okay, because we have different aims.
But here's where I think we need to be clear for box owners too. I like the idea of a moving day, right? Or flow, or, whatever you want to call it. Hey guys, there's no score, there's no weights. These are the movements like Fern laid out: kettlebell, squat, deadlift, etc. However, no different than we would tell people, like, you can't always squat on Mondays because some people can't make Mondays, or blah, blah, blah. Like, this needs to be something.
It should move on the calendar. Right.
It should move, or you need to be equipped well enough as a coach that no matter what the workout is, you can be like, hey guys, who's here for a flow day? And that could be Monday or Friday or whatever. Oh, me. Okay, well, we're doing Fran today. So, I want you to grab a lighter barbell, and we're going to set the clock. When we do Fran, you're going to go for 10 minutes. And maybe it's like 9 thrusters with a 1-second pause overhead, 9 pull-ups, as many, something like that. Or, EMOM it. So if you're done in 40 seconds, you rest, or else it could turn into intensity, right?
Right.
But you as a coach need to be equipped for that. And I wouldn't do that every workout, to be clear. Like Fern said, I'd probably just pick one day in my programming a week, rotate that. It probably wouldn't be on Monday because most people take the weekends off. So, like a Wednesday, Thursday, even a Friday, and then program accordingly.
Yeah, I think you have it in there, and I don't even think it necessarily needs to be labeled as that. Just that's the intent of the day, and then you just keep it in your back pocket for people who might need it on a Monday, who had something crazy going. They did a Tough Mudder or something on the weekend, and they're feeling a little banged up. And I'm like, use today as a moving day. Like, I don't want you to move at any particular pace. Just get some full range of motion into those joints so that we can feel a little better at the end of this. But let's try to do a better job in the affiliates of communicating the idea of intensity, its value, and what that actually means to each person when they walk in the class. And that doesn't mean take the throttle and put it all the way to light yourself on fire. It could just mean, like, let's use it as a moving day, because that still has tremendous value and still will give you results at the end of the day. And then what that will lend itself to is when you do want to go full throttle, you'll be able to do it better.
And last thing, you're going to get better attendance. Better attendance is better retention. Better retention, more money, right? More money, a better affiliate. Like, because everybody, there's a day where I look at programming like, fuck, I'm just beat up today. I'd like to go in, but I can't handle some deadlifts.
Yeah, I don't want to do that.
Yeah,
like, that sounds painful to me.
Yeah. And you just feel like, well, there's, yes, we agree you could scale, but it's still, even scaling, the goal of scaling is to hit the stimulus, right? So now I'm scaling lighter deadlifts and I'm just moving faster versus, cool, grab that kettlebell and we're going to do a 20. I think, we have found over the years, 16 times a month is ideal. And for a lot of people, that might be the, 14th, 15th, 16th time they come in, which lends itself to retention. So consider that. And I'm telling you now, no programming is doing this, by the way. So,
and if you're doing this, getting into train and get into the box, doing it, if you instill this idea that it's okay and that there's a time and place for this, getting in 16 times a month will be no problem for people. They won't be like, I'm going to take today off because I feel like hammered dog shit. They're going to be like, I'm going to go in there because I'm actually going to feel better when I leave today than when I walked in.
That's the goal. All right, Fern, good chat on this. I'm looking forward. And I think if you're a box owner or a coach, you need to figure out, how can I make this work at my affiliate? And if you're not sure, hit us up. We're happy to chat about it. We're happy to answer those questions for you.
Thanks for checking out this episode of the Best Hour of Their Day podcast. We appreciate you listening and choosing to have us help you in your passion for coaching and affiliate ownership. You can find more episodes just like this on all podcast platforms. If you're interested in learning more, you can reach out to us on any social media platforms, or you can visit www.besthouroftheirday.com to book a call. If you found this episode helpful for you, please share it so that we can help other coaches and affiliate owners to help build a bigger and stronger CrossFit community. Thanks for listening.